Hi boys, how are you doing? Sullivan, Hendrix, Wyatt. I'm going to read a story, the nearest thing I can find for an Easter story. So there'll be other children making noises with their families because it is the Easter holidays now. So I hope you can hear me during this. This one's called Little Martha. Little Martha and her brother and sister were born one day in the spring in one of Mr. Smiley's fields at Blackberry Farm. They were little and fluffy white lambs, and their mother was very proud of them. But Martha's mother could not feed 3 babies, and Mr. Smiles was very worried when he saw how hungry little Martha was. "Poor little lamb," he said, "we must do something for you." So he went and told Mrs. Smiles, and they decided to ask Emily the goat to help them. And Emily said she would let them have some extra milk so that they could bring Martha up on a bottle. That was kind. Mr. and Mrs. Smiles were very happy and brought Martha down to the farm and gave her a lovely warm bed of straw in the shed next to Emily. And every day Emily gave them extra milk for Martha. And either Bob or Joy, Mrs. Smiles' children, gave her her meals from the bottle. I know Wyatt and Sullivan, you've fed baby goats, haven't you, down at Longdown Dairy Farm? You enjoyed doing that. All the farm loved little Martha, and her best friend was George the kitten, and those two used to play hide and seek all over the place. One day George hid in Henry the pig's house, and Henry was very cross indeed because little Martha had woke him up from after his after dinner sleep when she was bounding around to look for George. Uh-oh, got in trouble. But one summer morning when Bob went to give little Martha her bottle, she had gone. The shed was empty. There was no Martha. No one knew where she was. No one had seen her, and they stood in a sad cluster around the open door. All her friends were there: Henry, Emily, Walter Duck, George, Mother Hen and Mary, Rusty the sheepdog, little Lucy Mouse, and Joe Robin the postman. "We must do something," Henry said. Rusty moved first. He trotted off to look around the old barn where little Martha and George used to play when it was wet. George followed him, but they did not find little Martha. Walter Duck paddled off towards his little pond with Mother Hen, and Mary clucking behind him. "Perhaps little Martha went down this way," she quacked. But they did not find little Martha. Poor Martha, where's she gone? Henry and Emily looked at each other solemnly and shook their heads. "It's very worrying," Henry grunted, and Emily dropped a large tear on the ground because she was very fond of little Martha. "I don't know what to do," she sighed, and another big tear dropped down onto the ground. Oh, she is sad. All this time, Joe the robin had been perched on the wall beside the shed, thinking. He turned to Bob. "You must tell your mother and father," he said. So Bob rushed into the house and found Mr. and Mrs. Smiles searching everywhere for Joy. Little Martha was lost too. He cried. "Little Martha is lost too," he cried. "Isn't it awful?" And then suddenly he knew they must have gone off together. Little Martha could even unfasten the gate by herself, and Joy did say she was going to get up early this morning. Oops. And he rushed out to tell the animals that they were so glad. They jumped with happiness and trooped off up the lane to see if they could find Joy and little Martha and tell them it was breakfast time. There they all are, a little search party. And coming down the lane towards them, they saw Joy and her arms full of flowers and little Martha frisking beside her. They look very happy. They don't know all the worry they've caused. Mrs. Smile began to scold Joy for giving them all such a fright, but when Joy explained that little Martha had wanted to see the field where she was born and where she would live when she was grown up, Mrs. Smile said, "That's it, all this time, but..." Where am I? Sorry, done it again. Mrs. Smile said that it was all right this time, but she must never take Martha out again without telling someone first. Because mummies and daddies worry, don't they? You must always tell them where you're going, or ask if you can go. Then they all went back to Blackberry Farm for breakfast. Little Martha said, no, she didn't say. And little Martha was allowed to have her bottle that morning in the kitchen because they loved her so much and were so happy that she was home safely again. There she is, look. And that's the end of the story. So I hope everybody has a lovely Easter. This is probably the only story I'm going to do over the Easter holidays, but I'm sending lots of love, and don't eat too much chocolate and make yourself feel sick. I'll see you soon. Love you, Wyatt. Love you, Hendrix. Love you, Sullivan. I'll see you soon.